Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I don't know. There's not many people here, but like, I don't know. I like to probably tell you some things about this. It's been like possibly a while before, like, actually, so like, doing a live on Twitch or whatever, because like, I mean, it's been like, I've been procrastinating for a little bit because I wasn't sure if I wasn't getting like any so like meaningful returns out of it or anything like that. And I gotta if I don't get any much growth in like this, I don't know. What's it worth it? But like, I don't know. Considering I have like a following of like I don't know, probably 1,000 plus followers on TikTok and Instagram. I said, why the fuck not? Let's just do it differently. Let's just I don't know. Let's just do it like the good shit in some way or another. So, you gotta understand that the format is gonna change differently in some way or another at some degree. So, you know, that's like it is gonna be interesting because I think what we're gonna do today is a little bit of a deep dive on like or like indie publishers and indie games and whatever, and like what makes them indie, and I think that probably makes like these companies less indie because I don't know if you notice or anything, but I think a lot of these indie game companies, especially the publishers, I think there's a bit of a problem considering if they're considered indie or not because of like the how they run their operations, how they run the companies, etc., etc. Consider this. Two glaring examples of this are Devolver Digital and Tiny Build, which I mean, big important indie game companies to be frank. And then there's like I don't know stuff like New Blood, um, uh, that's their shit, or Saum, or whatever that is, which I mean, at some degree, you gotta understand they operate like in some way that make ow. Sorry, my septum still hurts because it's kind of new, and like I like fiddling with it. I gotta be careful fiddling with it because, quite frankly, I don't wanna get like the fucking pain of like. Hold on, I gotta. Sorry. And also I have to apply like the saline and everything. Oh, sorry, I have to apply like the saline and everything on like the nose and everything in the septum area because I just get it heal and everything. So like that's why I hate so much fiddling with my nose at this point. But I gotta get fucking used to it in some way or another until it heals and I can change like the piercing septum for a little bit. But what was I saying? You know, I mean, the way indie game companies operate, and this includes like Devolver Digital, Tiny Build, Apogee, 3D Realms, that's just shit. Which I mean, isn't it a bit of a coincidence that some of these like game publishers, indie game publishers, so to speak, are still owned by great mega corporations like Embracer Group? I like even given the whole COVID pandemic stuff, the whole COVID pandemic, like hangover thing, it's a result of like the whole acquisition thing during the pandemic and that sort of shit. Because I mean, let's face it, a lot of game biz executives are fucking dumb. I mean, they see something that generates huge heaps of money out of the sudden without understanding why they do, and they jump into it like jaguars, like fucking, leopards eating their faces. And you gotta understand that as well. So okay, yeah, let's try to understand why game publishers, indie game publishers like Devolver Digital and Tiny Bill and so on and so forth, do work this way and are not as indie as you think. Because frankly, this is like an important question to understand the important so like decline of the indie game industry as a whole. Because quite frankly, I mean, let's face it, not everyone is as lucky to be in a position of like influence and like so like finances that as these indie game publishers and everything. So like that's also in mind. So anyway, I think my thesis I think my thesis should be that indie game publishers work in like a similar way to like these venture capital firms. Not like a they're not like exactly venture capital firms, so they work similarly to venture capital firms. Okay, like let me explain. Let me just track the whiteboard for 1 second, if you don't honestly mind. So I gotta set this up for a bit. Hold on. So, Windows sources. Okay, hold on. There you go. Hold on. Click the drawing screen on the vertical format as well. So okay, let's see. Get in my glovey here, so I can properly get the XP pen thing going on. I think my XP pen is somewhere on here. Get the fuck out of here. Um, it's okay. Here it is. It's okay. Let's see. I went to a capital firm. Yeah, I got it right. I went to a capital firm with. Watch out, we're gonna. I don't get. You don't get to see it here, isn't it? With like the chat window. Um, I went to a capital firm. What it does basically, just how it works basically, is that it makes like small, tiny bets on like a little on the like a lot of small projects and everything or whatever. They get like a portfolio of like small things on going on in here. So like a anything lands in here. The goal of this is to basically that what a few of them. Most of them will fail, obviously. Most of them are obviously like obviously not gonna generate like a shit ton of money outright. But when it comes, when you do like a lot of throwing shit into the wall to see what sticks, eventually you'll find a golden goose like these here. They're gonna make like shit tons. They're gonna make like shit tons of fucking money that are gonna sustain the entire thing. So like these outliers, these anomalies of sorts, is like like what it's gonna sustain the whole business, as far as I know. Because venture capital is what he's basically doing is throwing shit into a wall to see what actually sticks and what generates like a shit ton of money to them to sustain everything else. And so like when like they hit land like an what's it called? Like an outlier, like in a breakout like a breakout hit, you know, they eventually like justify everything else and then so like you know like to sustain like everything else financially. That's how they keep themselves afloat. I don't know any venture capital firms or names or whatever, but I think that's how I see that's how venture capital firms work. I have a game publisher, on the other hand, if you can I can erase here. Wait a second. A game an indie game publisher will do around the same thing. They will throw around like a bunch. They will cover like a lot of indie games that like most of them will not be breakout hits. So, like a lot of them will be absolute failures. And let's face it, that's why they pick like a whole heap of fucking indie games in the process. And like they don't. Let's okay. Like look, indie game publishers, what they do offer is like being a middleman between like like the indie developer and like the audience, right? They offer like marketing, they offer to cover up like marketing expenses. They so like act like it's a cover for like indie game developers and everything. So like the indie game has some more potential reach, but it's not a guarantee that it seems because quite frankly they like open up to so many indie game projects. This has been probably the case of Developer Digital as well, which I mean it has been like a problem eventually, but I'll talk about it later. Some outliers, like say, I don't know, probably Hotline Miami, or something. I probably write it wrong, but Hotline Miami here, or like Cold of the Lamb, or I don't know, whatever. These games are outliers and breakout hits are generating like shit tons of fucking money for like Devolver Digital and other indie game publishers. So like eventually, they sustain everything else. So everything they pick up as an indie game publisher is justified and financed. So what's the problem here? So like this is like exactly a bit like gambling. This is exactly like casino capitalism. And when like what happens with indie game publishers like Devolver or like I don't know whatever Tiny Build is that they quite become traded in a stock exchange, so like they become IPOs. And what happens with IPOs is that it's ironic that Devolver Digital has become an IPO because, quite frankly, they become like accountable to like shareholders, and when like you promote like ideology, like an aesthetic, like a company aesthetic of being anti-corporate, but then you get so corporate you become accountable to shareholders. It's a bit ironic like that. Okay, that's what happens with Devolver, especially. I mean, like when you like become an IPO, especially like this, and like you have to rely on this venture capital style, so like inner workings here to like throw shit into a wall, sweet sticks, and like gamble away like multiple indie projects that fail to see what one was successful. A bad year can mean a lot of fucking disaster as an IPO because shareholders will hold you accountable. The Devolver has probably like the dollar, for instance, had like a stock market devaluation go down minus 98% probably. I think I'm getting the numbers wrong, but like it's probably around the number is 98 or 95% or something like that, minus 95%, probably around these numbers, right? They lost like a bunch after like the whole pandemic hangover, like that. It's sort of like happened as a side effect of like the COVID pandemic hangover. Because let's face it, a lot of games were so like purchased in the haste of like the COVID pandemic because people were staying at homes, they had nothing to do, they had no work, and at least they will probably be remote working. But even then, they will spend more time at home doing absolutely nothing. So they play more video games, they consume more video games, and like that's the thing about it. It's like a temporary like consider like a temporary fucking fiesta for like the fucking game that publishers or game executives in some way or another. Like they have like a momentary so like anomaly that earns them a lot of money, and that's what happens. Devolver lost like 98, 95% of like the stock market evaluation because, I mean, they had a bad year of like not having breakout hits like again Hotline Miami or Call of the Lamb or any of these games, or I don't know whatever fucking Fall Guys maybe. Fall Guys, I mean, they didn't have like breakout hits at Fall Guys or something like that. So like, I mean, what it's like shareholders really don't like the idea that you're gambling away your portfolio. So like you like fill your portfolio with tons and tons and tons of gambles and bets into what's gonna be like a breakout hit, and like at the time the breakout hit arrives, like you don't you already lost like a bunch of shit and money into like this whole thing because you already had like a bad year of not having a breakout hit of in terms of games. And this is the ironic bit of it. What this is what makes me wonder what makes an indie and what doesn't make an indie. Because I mean, to be frank, to be completely straightforward with you, like I think the problem we have is that I mean indie game that publishers like these, if they work in with like the sort of like inner workings of like any sort of like triple A game corporation or whatever, I mean, it's no different than a triple A game corporation at this point. And that's like what I've been wondering for the last a few months about it because, quite frankly, this will be a little bit of an appetizer for like the coming video that we're working on, especially. I think it's especially probably normal to wonder that all these game companies, you know, I think it's a bit silly. It's a bit silly that a lot. I mean, this is like the inner workings of like indie game companies and everything. I don't know. I think it's a bit ridiculous at this point. And by the way, I'm just checking like the Instagram and so like that stuff. I don't know. Don't have much. I don't know what the fuck is it's not working. It's whatever. Whatever. I don't know. In any case, that's that you should probably be skeptical about indie game companies. For instance, Apogee, right? And let's look it up for 1 second. What's the deal with Apogee and like that sort of shit? Okay, I gotta look it up so I can show you. Yeah, so like I'm gonna look for a quick picture just so you can get to an idea. I heard about like the famous infographic that looks like this. Give me a second. I'm gonna put it here, and if it makes any logical sense, of course. Okay, here it is. Basically, if you look into it, like lots of these so-called indie game companies, I see 3D Realms here. 3D Realms is here, considered like an indie game company of sorts. Not sure to what extent. Apple, you should be probably as well here, maybe at some point with Embracer Group. You know, you know what I mean, right? You know what I probably mean. I notice patterns here. Slipgate here, uh, fucking other game companies like this. I don't know. Of course, there's like other fucking companies like Volition and with considered AAA or whatever. But like, look, I think it's a bit silly. If anything, it's a bit ridiculous that what is considered to be indie and what is not considered to be indie in the game industry is questionable at some degree because I mean if you're really an indie, if you're really an independent indie developer or something similar, you'll be living in fucking misery because like the industry, what happens is that unless you got the right connections or like the right deep pockets, like what happens in New Blood or Apogee or 3D Realms or something, or unless you got the right connections with like certain game journalist spaces like IGN or something like that. I think the main problem is that you're gonna be fucking living in mystery for a good while, unless you happen to be too lucky to be noticed by I don't know a big streamer or whatever or something like that. Which I mean happens as an anomaly in the industry. That's why games like Balatro happen as an anomaly in the industry, or even Schedule One or whatever these games are, because I mean they're not like a symptom of like the games industry working as intended. They're like basically an exception to the rules of the game industry, and that's my whole problem with it. I said former indie developer of sorts. I mean, you get like living constant fucking mystery constantly and as an independent, fully independent indie game developer in this sort. And instead, like if you haven't got like the right connections, which I mean, at some point it makes it evident that a lot of nepo babies of the industry have a clear advantage in this industry. So like, I mean, look at like New Blood, for instance, right? Respectable company, by the way. I don't have any beef with New Blood or anything, but you gotta understand that New Blood has got like really deep pockets in the industry and really deep connections in the industry, so to sustain itself at some degree financially, at least, So like, New Blood, I mean, to be frank, comes from like some people who came previously from like the Rest of the Triad 2013 reboot, which was previously made by Apogee. Already, Apogee was like a notable game company in the industry already. So like considering the whole history behind it, so it's a question of like how many connections you have in the industry and everything. So like that's how the industry favors like a lot of nepotism and nepo babies and whatever in the whole industry. And I'm, honestly, there's something about it that I don't personally like. There's something about like that sort of like you know bullshit that I don't personally like, honestly, because I think what is not valued here is like what is valued here is not like talent or effort or like a fun factor in your games or anything like that. What is valued is how deep of your pockets are and how deep your connections are in the industry and how much influence you have in the industry. Which, if you're not privileged enough to like be born with that in some way or another, you're kind of screwed. Yeah, you're kind of fucking screwed. There's no other way around it. You're fucking screwed, and quite frankly, it's as sad as it sounds, but it is what it is. That's the big fucking problem here. Oh, where's my cursor? There. But I hate. I really hate when I look like a fucking bitch wearing a tinfoil hat for this sort of shit. But it's fucking true. But it's fucking true. This industry is just fucking rotten. The coming video we're working on with my editor and everything is something in the lines of like has the industry has becoming so rotten that even the indie game industry is not safe enough. You know, unless you're an independent indie developer living in fucking misery, like I say. And I really fucking hate it. And yeah, I think it's a bit fucking shitty like that. If that makes any fucking sense. But yeah, that's what it is. A 3 minute deep dive on why the shit kind of is like it is, sort of. I think it was. I think it's been like I don't know, 30 minutes of a deep dive. Jesus fucking Louis. But I don't know, whatever. I can I can pardon you for 1 second. I'm gonna be right back in one microsecond, and I'm gonna be right back with Minecraft or something like that. So like, you know, or maybe I'm gonna talk about some more stuff eventually. You know, I kind of feel like it. I don't know, whatever. I kind of feel like it, honestly. I'm gonna be right back in 5 minutes, something, if you don't mind. Yeah, hold on. There you go. Oh my man, I'll probably change the titles too. Hold on. I gotta update the titles. Hold on. I'm gonna be talking about like the Sabre drama for a little bit. Like I think could be like uh, interesting to talk about because I think that this could be sorted in like a better way. Basically, let's see. Is it Tap Saber? Like I don't know. Whatever. There you go. There you go. So cool, 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 cool. Okay. Anyway, talking about the Saber drama for a little bit because there's something about it that I find it particularly fucking stupid about it in any way or form, whatever. I think it's fucking dumb. I don't know about you, but this could. Do you not feel like this could be sorted in private originally before blocking or anything, in like private DMs or something like that? Like you didn't need to like make a whole fuss about it. On one hand, like that black content creator that was like talking about Saber and everything. I mean, she didn't need to like like make a huge fuss about it, like like calling out Saber for not following black creators, and I can understand what's like the viewpoint of that, because I mean it's a bit of a problem when you like don't follow too many black POC or whatever trans content creators or anything. Which I mean, there might be reasons about it, but if there's like no valid justification for it, I mean, it might make sense later. Saber has a justification for it that I find it incredibly like, still valid in some way, but I think it's still fucking stupid either way. Still to how she managed this whole thing too. I'll get to that later, but I mean, you didn't need you don't need to get like a fucking TikTok video or an Instagram reel calling out this person in public if you could sort it out in private in some way or another, you know? Like this could be sorted easily originally in DMs. That's a simple thing. I mean, there's no other way around it. Like you're not gonna cause a huge fucking drama fuss for like not following enough black POC or like BIPOC content trans content creators or whatever. Which I mean, you could tell them about it in DMs and say, "Hey, you're like, why you're not following enough like trans BIPOC content creators or whatnot, you know?" And then like so like she can explain and whatnot, whatever, like easy, right? I mean, you don't need like to fucking like amplify this sort of shit or like a fucking absolute shit fest that will probably only guarantee like fucking unnecessary drama, which will end up in Bry getting and everything. And even if they don't intend to send Bry getting their way or like Saber's way or like the other way around, I think it's fucking stupid because either way, like you're gonna just inevitably send like a whole brigade of people telling them that they're racist, they're pedophiles, I don't know, whatever that is, right? I don't know like the internal beef between these two. I have no fucking clue. But like I think it's a bit fucking ridiculous because I mean what I see especially as well is when like a progressive content creator calls out another progressive content creator. This has happened to me when I was calling out like pirate software, right? So to speak. I mean, relatively progressive guy, pirate software, Thor, by the way. Which I mean, the side effect of this guy dogpiling with his following on me, who has no platform to defend myself, is a brigade of similarly right wing absolute assholes just joining in on the brigading and like basically telling you things like, "Oh, you're a tranny, you're a pedophile," blah, that sort of shit, right? And that is frustrating as hell because anytime any of these dramas happen, any fucking time any of these dramas happen, they will eventually end up with right-wing fucking shots or using that opportunity with the drama to harass other affected content creators and everything, which I find incredibly fucking frustrating. And that's probably the sad thing about it. That's the problematic thing about it. On the other hand, Saber, I think she could have managed a little bit better and like again discussing in DMs or whatever in private before like sort of blocking this person. What would be the fucking point of blocking this person? I mean, she's not saying anything wrong in any sort of way. I mean, understandably, like she has like this very valid concern about like not following enough BIPOC content trans content creators or whatever. I don't know. I find it incredibly fucking stupid. And I think if anything, I heard about like Saber's response to this. We're gonna look into it in a bit, hopefully. What the hell is this? I got new messages on Instagram or something. Oh boy. I don't know. I think it's a bit fucking silly. Hold on. Let me check here. Fact check the Sabre response on Instagram. I like to check my fucking DMs on Instagram in private or something like that. Like, hey. Oh, okay, yeah. I guess so, yeah. You heard about the molecule of doom? I like to have the fucking molecule of doom, you know? Jesus, like. Anyway, where was it? 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 Hold on. Bottleneck looser. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. I'm gonna put it on the other screen just for convenience. So, like, I don't know, it doesn't deserve anything here. So, like, I mean, okay, hold on. Main desktop here. Sabre had kind of like a like sort of response. We're gonna look into it. Maybe it's you know, in some way justifies what I mean the whole drama behind it. Let's see, hold on. There. Oh, yeah. I forgot the desktop audio. Give me a second. Yeah. I keep forgetting about the fucking desktop audio thing. Okay, here it is. Let me see. There you go. Sorry. My bad. I think I missed the complete audio part of this whole thing. Sorry about it. My fucking no, whatever. I guess. Wait a minute. Let me just reload the video for 1 second.
Hi, let's talk. Around a week and a half ago, I woke up one morning to hundreds of DMs and comments all calling me a racist Nazi pedophile. Very confused on what's happening, I asked people who are DMing me this, who is saying this? Who is talking about me like this? And I was directed to a content creator that I had previously blocked months ago. I unblocked her to see what was happening, and I saw her most recent video had my profile in it saying that my content was colorblind and that I blocked her for saying that. There was also apparently another criticism that I was made aware of later, that she was critiquing my content for not keeping in mind the masculinization of black femininity in a white supremacist society. And so then I made a response, and it did not go well. So it's very obvious people got very angry at my response. And so I want to talk about it. And in me talking about it, I'm not trying to dismiss how it made you feel. I'm trying to give you some background information and understanding of where I was coming from. Because it did hurt people. And I'm sorry for that. So first, people got mad that I smiled in my video. The intent behind me going like, was to show that I can take criticism and move forward. The original critique that my content may be colorblind and
I don't know, but I find this like a common trait, like autistic people. You know, a person like a person, you know, with autism like me. You know, I find like very hard to get social cues from neurotypical people. Like, you know, trying to make them understand that I'm not like say mad or I can take criticism or that I'm fine with something. And I find like so like the conundrum of rules and unwritten rules that are made by neurotypical people and like these sorts of things that are like, you know, a bit you know, you sort of like yeah, a bit problematic in some way or another. I find it's maybe it's just me being autistic or something when I'm trying to convey the message that I'm not mad about someone or whatever. But if people find problematic that I smile in a video in such a thing like this, I mean that's a problem with neurotypical people. I mean the problems inherent with like neurotypical society when they expect you to follow social norms that are unwritten and often untold to you, especially. And I find it incredibly problematic. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, probably. I guess that's probably that.
and I also lack the depth that is needed to have conversations about race, is something that I took in good faith. I bought some books and I've been reading and I've been trying to challenge my pre-existing ideas as a white person living in a white supremacist society when it comes to race. And just because I'm reading some books and talking about it doesn't mean I'm a good white person now and racism is solved. It's a lifelong process to unlearn the conditioning of a white supremacist society. I'm continuously trying to learn and become a better person, and so this is me trying to do that. And that's why I smiled. I wanted to show that the subject matter is a big deal, but that I can take criticism and move on. That's no big deal. Then, people got really mad that I used the term hyperspecific when talking about trans BIPOC issues. So these are the connections that my brain made to use the word hyperspecific. It started with the greater issues of women's issues, and I narrowed it down to trans women's issues, and I narrowed it down further to trans BIPOC issues, getting more and more specific each level, getting hyperspecific issues. So for me, it made sense, but I tried to look at it with the perspective of not having that thought process. Yeah, that was kind of a terrible word to use. It was never my intent to try to minimize trans BIPOC issues, and so my word choice made it seem like I was doing that, and I'm very sorry. Then people had a problem when I said I don't watch trans content because I am, quote, secure in my identity. To me, trans content is very different than content made by trans people. Trans content, in my eyes, is transitioning content for people early in their transition or figuring out their identity, if they're trans or not, or like how to wear a skirt, how to do your makeup, and like very early transitioning stuff. I'm almost 4 years into my transition. I don't really need to know that information, and so I don't watch that type of content. That's what I was saying. But again, I probably could have said it better. And then people had an issue about me not using my platform to already be promoting trans BIPOC voices. And yeah, I wasn't really. That's a valid criticism. With my content, I've always kept a very open policy of if you want to collab or like me to repost something or, show more traction for something, you just have to ask. In all points of time, before, during, and after this, you can just ask. That's it. When the trans bill was happening in India, I had a bunch of people who were being directly affected by it reach out to me, asking for me to talk about it and asking me to collaborate in their posts, and so I did. And I want to make videos about topics that are beyond my own experience. So I am open for collaboration. Just ask. It was later made apparent to me that beyond the original criticism of my content was colorblind, there was also a criticism that I did not address the masculinization of black femininity under a white supremacist system. And this is in regards to talking about passing in the past, because black transgender women are expected to perform femininity to a higher degree because of the masculinization of black femininity under white supremacy. And yeah, that's real. I've talked about it. It happens. Yes. And so if I did something that made it seem like I didn't know that or didn't keep that in mind, I'm sorry. And if the video that I made you not feel good, I am very sorry. The goal with my content and all I try to do is to have fun and educate people who might need it. So if at any point you don't feel like you're having fun, or you think I should be talking about something, or I talked about something incorrectly, let me know. I want to grow. And so I'm asking for your help in doing so. But with that, I want to talk about the response. And I mean the response to my video by the greater internet. Because, oh my God. So I took a week break from all social media because it was making me throw up from anxiety. But from the things that people have shown me, holy shit. For those of you unaware, I've been trying to connect with members of my local community, and so it was bewildering to see members of that community doxing me. Which was then followed by people who I've talked to maybe combined 10 minutes in their lives out in public, putting out giant exposés on who I am as a person. This, paired with people getting very strange about the fact that I may or may not have blocked them. I'm seeing creators who I've never seen before in my life claiming that I blocked them because I'm racist for points on the internet. I'm nervous because this seems very, lack of a better word, parasocial. Because what do you mean I've had acquaintances or familiar faces coming online telling people who I am when they don't know me? 99.9% of you don't know who I am. You're just familiar with me. You see me on your phone a lot.
Especially what I said. A lot of right-wing assholes use the opportunity with this type of drama to throw shit at like the big team or whatever, I think it's pretty evident. Like I've seen like things in Fortran or like 4chan whatever, dogpiling on Sabre for this sort of shit. Like basically doing all the shit they do because of the whole drama thing. Isn't it clearly evident at this point? I don't know. I think it's already obvious.
You don't know me. Content creator Sabre and real life Sabre are two very different people. What you see is an intensely curated view on the parts of myself I deem appropriate. And like I've talked about it before, but like I struggle with mental health pretty seriously. The way I use social media, the way I talk about myself, the way I deal with all of this is directly in regards to my own mental health. I was already dealing with minor agoraphobia before all of this, but guess what got worse? Nobody should be idolizing or pedestaling influencers. All I do is talk about my experience with transitioning and my perspective on things. You should not pedestal that. You shouldn't idolize me. I shouldn't be the only person you listen to with trans topics. I shouldn't be the only voice you listen to when it comes to queer, like, news. And I shouldn't be the only trans person you listen to at all. You should be wary about the things you see and hear on the internet. Because there are creators out there, also trans creators out there, who do not have your best interests in mind. People will and are trying to influence the way that you feel and think about things for their own personal gain. The next time somebody is trying to get you to believe or act a certain way, take a look at their content and see, is this just what they do? Or are they trying to manipulate your emotions to get you to click on an OnlyFans link or a Substack link? You need to be aware about how people on the internet are trying to sway the way that
What was like the person talking about previously? Hold on, that reminds me of something. That fucking reminds me of something. Give me a minute. I have it in my following. I think. Give me a second. Oh, profile. Let me check. Following. Let me check here. What's it? I swear I could be following here. So it's set, maybe. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Let me check. Now this might be a funny coincidence. This might be a funny coincidence if you would watch like the rest of the content here, and like see the everything else. Link free. Not muchy here. On reels maybe. Let's get have it got reels. I mean, honestly, like what Saber is saying. What Saber is saying is true in some way or another. Of course, it's a Substack, obviously. That's that. Yeah, there you go. But what Saber is saying at this point, like it's very, 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 very fucking obvious. It's just incredibly fucking obvious already. Because I mean, it's what I've been saying for like ages and ages and ages at some degree, right? Like you gotta be wary of like the parasocial relationship behind everything. Some people are not called influencers for nothing. Influencer means they have to influence your way of thinking to make you so like buy their product, consume their shit, or do whatever in their favor, right? Which I find it, incredibly icky. Like you can understand the difference between like content creator me, content creator Joan, and like the real life Joan, which I gotta be completely straightforward with you. Real life Joan Maria Royal Khan, has a lot of personal issues with mental health and insecurities and all such sort of shit that I mean might not compare to content creator Joan Maria Royal Khan. That's the same with Saber or any content creator out there. And you gotta be wary of like what people say on the internet or whatever when it comes to like the so-called influencers, right? Because at this point, I mean, everything is a fucking trap. If you don't look carefully, like I think the way influencers work, they redirect you to either an OnlyFans or on a Substack or whatever. I think it's a bit dangerous to think, you know, you gotta like understand. You gotta be wary of what these people say on the internet and just not idolize, not fucking idolize people on the internet. A single person on the internet for nothing. You should not idolize me for what I say or do on the internet, nor anybody else, because I mean that's like a problem. That's like a gigantic fucking problem, and I fucking mean it. I'm serious. I'm fucking serious. I mean, what else? What fucking else? I don't know. I guess that's that. This is the Sabre drama. I felt like a bit of a stupid fucking drama in the end because this whole hobby sorted personally in DMs or something similar, right? Like easily go sort it out in DMs like that and just be over with it, like a normal grown up person. But no, fucking no. I find it like incredibly absurd that a lot of these influencers people that have to rely on call out videos and reels or whatever to sort out the shit. No, honey, no. You don't sort out shit like that. Not like a fucking grown up adult. You know? Like, sort shit out like grown up adults. Like, discuss it in private first and, like, try to make, like, amends with that person in some way or another. Like, try to make them aware of your, like, sort of disagreements or grievances or whatever in private before, like, doing this, having the minimal possibility of doing the call out videos. Because the inherent effect of these call out videos is that you're gonna bring a brigade on someone who doesn't probably deserve it. And I found it like incredibly problematic to do that sort of shit. I know I'm probably guilty of that at some degree. And I did it before. I'm not gonna say I didn't do it, but it's problematic to say the least. It's fucking problematic. Like especially for someone who should not care about this sort of drama type of shit. I mean, there's nothing much else to it, I guess. So that's that. Anyway, I wanted to probably discuss something else. Probably I'm gonna probably think about it in a break. I'm gonna be right back in 5 minutes. Whatever. I'll be right back in 5 minutes, guys. I'll see you then. I don't know. I think I should probably cut it short in here for like 1 hour stream or whatever, because I think I find it like I should probably work more like getting the clips or whatever for this sort of stuff. So like there's obviously that. There should be more work into it in terms of like clips to bring in like an audience of like people here or whatever. I think that's pretty much the thing about it. I don't know, you know, I don't know, but I want to probably work with my editor to like try to like get something clippable here, so I can maybe bring more of an audience here or something like that. So that's I think it might be convenient at this point. So I'm gonna see you on Friday, next Friday, with another deep dive type of thing. Maybe I hope this probably works in some way or another. I don't know. It's been fun, I guess. So that's that. It's some way or another. I like info dumping about stuff sometimes. So that's that. I think that's good. Info dumping. Yeah, go. Anyway, I gotta see you then. I hope on Friday. So that's that. Yeah, smell you later, Gator.